Partnerships in Clinical Trials is one of the only conferences that I think provides the environment for both sponsors and suppliers to come together. I'm John Barry. I am the head of vendor strategy and management with Merck. I've been at Merck for about a year. We have a significant portion of our clinical trial portfolio outsourced with a mixed model, programmatic and FSP. And prior to Merck, I spent 22 years on the supplier side working at both PPD and Quintiles. So I bring a kind of supplier perspective into the sponsor side. So with regard to new innovative models that we've put in place at Merck, we actually just recently installed a strategic planning discipline in both my team as well as our supplier base, our supplier alliances. And that is to try to install a collaborative strategic planning process. So we know that our suppliers are developing strategic account plans for Merck. Prior to this installation, we didn't participate in that planning process. We never saw those plans. We didn't know what their, kind of goals and objectives were for the Merck relationship. This discipline now allows us to participate as an external, team member, but we can provide them with some guidance and some direction around what areas of Merck should they approach, where are some of the problem statements that we have, and what are some of the solutions that they might be able to develop to help ensure that we're creating value in the relationship that they're bringing to Merck. So it's beyond just the RFP proposal process. It's saying, look, we've got a number of challenges at Merck that we need help solving, and we can only get those solutions if we work with our partners to let them know what they are and what some of the possible solutions are that we might be able to implement through their supplier network. Important trends in the industry, I think, at Merck at least, we have a number of suppliers. We probably don't need any more suppliers. Many suppliers wouldn't want to hear that, but the reality is we've got a lot of suppliers. And we've installed a number of different sourcing models. When we talk about change management, we talk about installation and realization. So the procurement team installs these models into the organization, and then my team is responsible for realizing the value of those installations. We've got examples, though, where the way the contracts were structured and the way the goals and objectives were lined up, or the absence of SLAs, et cetera, create some challenges for us to realize that value. So I would rather we spend time trying to optimize the models that we have rather than bringing in more suppliers, at least for the time being, until we have a good foundation around the sourcing models that we're executing. I think there's two fundamental challenges that we have to help our organization, and by our, I'm talking about the sponsor organization like Merck, understand when we outsource. The first is the mere fact of outsourcing a clinical trial to a programmatic partner doesn't mean that we've now alleviated any problems, right? The problems still exist. We've just sourced the problems and the trial. So when the CRO encounters those problems, we shouldn't be surprised, right? The real question is, would we have encountered those problems had we done that internally? And so enrollment challenges, for example, a difficult to enroll trial is going to be difficult regardless of who's running it. There is, a perspective perhaps that there's an accountability that the CRO has, and we believe that, right? But it's not 100% accountability to enrollment in a pancreatic cancer trial, for example. They're just very difficult trials. And so we need our teams to understand that, if we were going to encounter those same challenges, then it's probably unlikely that we've prevented the risk associated with that problem just by the mere fact that we've outsourced it. So that's the first. The second is, and I think this is probably characteristic of the industry, but internally managed work, the work that we run through our FSPs, these are enterprise type models, single contracts for the block of resources that provide the function. But there's a lot of trials that are being executed by that function. And the challenge is that because of the way we've contracted that, there's not a lot of sensitivity to individual trial change. The analogy I'll use is we blow up a balloon full of resources and we press on that balloon and the shape of the balloon changes, but the volume doesn't, right? And so we don't see that sensitivity. On the other hand, when we programmatically source, we actually have a stopcock on that balloon and we let resources in and out in response to those changes. So there's a lot more sensitivity. It doesn't mean we don't have the same kind of economic consequences on internally managed trials. It's just we don't have a contract structure that enables that transparency. So I think it's important for us not to think that the sensitivity is different in these two models, because the trial performance is similar in both. But we do have contract structures that reveal that sensitivity in one and not the other. Partnerships in clinical trials is one of the only conferences that I think provides the environment for both sponsors and suppliers to come together and test the various models that have been deployed through the use of various sourcing strategies, FSP, programmatic, et cetera. And at Merck, we've deployed an awful lot of these solutions. It's difficult for us because we have a very parochial view around what we do, for us to be able to test the market validation, if you will, of those models against other companies. Partnerships in clinical trials brings those companies together and allows us to then have the conversations that are necessary for us to ensure that we're driving the value we expect, and also where we may not be, to be able to test other kinds of models and explore other options that we can then use to refine the models that we have to make sure that we are realizing that value that we think is inherent in these sourcing programs.